Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Father Trucker. Just wanted to share a few thoughts with you, and it would be real helpful if you had a Bible and you open it up to John chapter 1, the Gospel of John. I mentioned that in the last video that we're going to kind of get in the Word a bit more deliberately and let Jesus speak to us and share with us the things that he's saying. And I can't think of a better place to do that than from the Gospel of John. But let me ask you a question. If you were face to face with Jesus, I don't mean something bad's happened. I mean, there's just a chance you have to be looking right into his eyes, and he was to turn to you and say, "What do you want?" What would you say? And I'm sure there's a million different responses that go through all of our minds. But that is exactly what happens in the Gospel of John in chapter 1. Jesus has just been baptized. The disciples of John have just decided that they're no longer going to follow John, they're going to follow Jesus, and John is good with that. Because John just came to make a way for Jesus. He came to sort of open the door that others would go through, and in going through, they would find Jesus. That was the whole point. And so some of his disciples have just started to follow Jesus. And if you can visualize the interaction, it takes place in John chapter 1. It happens in verse 38, actually. And here's what happens. Jesus notices that these disciples of John have started to follow him. And he turns around and he looks at them and he says, and this is John chapter 1, verse 38, he says, "What are you seeking?" Other translations actually say that Jesus says, "What do you want?" He looks at them, here's the point, and asks them, what are they after? What are they hoping to get out of this? What are they thinking this is going to lead to as they've started to follow him? And I can again think of a million different things that I might ask Jesus if he asked me, "What do I want?" And if Jesus asked me, "What do you want?" Boy, I would love to think that I would use that opportunity to ask the most important question in the whole world, right? But here's what they say. Same text, John chapter 1, verse 38. They answer him when he says, "What do you want? What are you seeking?" They say to him, "Where are you staying?" And I got to read that a couple times, I think, to figure out what's actually going on there. But I think it's this. I think when they begin to follow Jesus, they've decided that he's going to be their master, he's going to be their teacher, he's going to be their rabbi. They're going to be his disciples. They're going to go with him wherever he goes and learn of him and be taught by him and all that stuff that disciples do to their masters. They're kind of trying to figure out what this life is going to be like. And so they say to Jesus, it would really help us a lot if you would take us and show us where you're staying. And I think maybe deep down inside, they were hoping it was going to be a palace. It was going to be some sort of supernatural encampment where the angels were coming and going, or what. The Bible tells us that they were expecting the Messiah was going to come and sit on the throne of David. So I think it's kind of connected to that. They were thinking, hope, and wishing that what they were going to see was that, hey, this is going to be great. Following Jesus. The Bible doesn't tell us in John's gospel where Jesus was staying. It tells us that he took them and showed them. And it tells us that people who began to follow him, many of them stayed following him, some of them bailed. It does tell us in another text that Jesus says to his disciples, "The birds have nests, the foxes have holes, the Son of Man doesn't even have anywhere to lay his head down." So that gives you a bit of a sense that it wasn't something amazing and opulent and wonderful where he was staying. So it wasn't anything to write home about, that's for sure. But here's the point that I hope you can catch from this. To follow Jesus doesn't lead to earthly palaces and easy roads and a simple journey, because that's not what Jesus walked. Following Jesus in this life is a hard road. It's a hard and narrow and oftentimes challenging journey. And I know some of you who are watching this, you might be knee deep in truck repairs, and you might be dealing with difficult dispatchers, and you might be struggling with challenging home lives, and just because you're following after Jesus doesn't mean everything has just started going easy and all up and to the right. Sometimes following Jesus is just plain hard. But let me encourage you, it is worth every single minute of challenge. We know from God's promises, and I don't want to jump too quick to the end of the story, but we know that the end is amazing. And the journey even is incredible. But hey, we know that the journey with Jesus is amazing, and the end result is an eternal reward. But can I encourage you that if the here and now is hard, don't give up. Okay, just like those disciples when they went and they saw where Jesus was staying and it was nothing to write home about, they chose to stick with him. Why? And here's the point, folks, and let me end with this. Because of who Jesus is, it's all worth it. Let me just say this. The point in following Jesus is Jesus. The point in the journey is the one who's leading us in the journey. And can I encourage you that if it's hard, I'm not making light of that. If it's a challenge, I'm not saying it isn't. But if you are determined to be a disciple of Jesus and to follow after him and to be a trucker who is devoted to being like a missionary behind the wheel of that truck you're driving right now, then keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, because he's worth it. He's worth every challenge, he's worth every struggle, and the reward is greater than anything that you could ever imagine. I hope that makes sense. Hey, listen, I'm going to end this video now because I'm quickly being surrounded and someone's going to want this bougie little parking spot that I've got here in this rest area, and I don't want to take it up when I don't really need it. I'm going to make my way home to the mama trucker there, but stay on the journey, folks. Don't give up. And no matter what, keep your eyes on the prize, because I tell you, it's all worth it. And please jump into John chapter 1, give it a read for yourself, and we'll talk again real soon. God bless. Father Trucker out.